take a look.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets with Rob. With breaking news, Carlos Correa is not a New York Met. He will be a Minnesota Twin once again by signing a deal with the Twins. And it came down to money. If you look at all the facts that have been going on over the last 20 minutes or so, the Mets would not guarantee more money and more years. There was a lot of language in the deal where the 6 years was fully guaranteed at $157.5 million, and he would make upwards of more to that of the current deal for the final 6 years. He would be making $42.5 million more in the first 6 years with the Twins. Correa could not get past the language that was in the contract that the Mets were going to offer him. And listen, what are we going to do, right? We wanted it to come to a conclusion. It is what it is. There is no way that the Mets were going to guarantee more years. And let's be honest, the Twins are in baseball purgatory. That's where Correa is going to be for much, much longer than that. And listen, it came down to the fact that Correa, and listen, I can't kill Correa here or Boris because the best interest of his self and his client basically was to get the most guaranteed money. And the Mets weren't willing to do that. Again, two teams didn't want to guarantee long-term deals. And the Twins didn't get a long-term deal. It was 6 years and more money available. So listen, before the Mets were actually in agreement with Correa, we were talking about other players. And when it came down to it, it was the fact that the Mets did not want to guarantee more money. The Mets were going to give more years with a lot of clauses in there. It's not anybody's fault except the fact that the agent in Boris got the most money he possibly can guaranteed from the Twins, and he took it. Again, no matter who wanted to be a Met, who the Mets wanted, or anything else like this, but one person has a lot to explain to do, and that's Steve Cohen. Because of the fact that he opened his mouth saying this was the missing piece we needed. $1 million of ticket sales were sold once this agreement, quote unquote, happened. Now Steve Cohen has to say something now. And listen, maybe the Mets have something else up their sleeve. I don't know. Listen, there was always talk about Ohtani and Devers. Devers is off the table now. He's a Red Sox. I doubt Ohtani is going to be traded in this offseason. And I don't think it's going to happen until after the season anyway. But the most important thing was the Mets got involved and got ahead of themselves, and that's all with Steve Cohen. Well, Tally, I don't know, because here's the fact. the 6 years, $200 million that can go all the way up to $275 million, which is vested based on the amount of games he plays and everything else. So let's be honest. We don't know how bad the medicals were, right? We don't know. Two teams that were in big markets, the Giants and the Mets, both were extremely skeptical when it came down to it. At the end of the day, two teams that were willing to go 12 years and 13 years quietly and were concerned about the medicals to the point where they don't think more than 6 years was going to be worth it. And am I going to kill? Listen, I was never killing the Giants. I had a feeling that it was all Boris, and this was all Boris once again, 100%. So I'm not killing anybody, but Cohen does have a little bit to explain it to you because he opened his mouth when nothing was official yet. Again, I still love Cohen. He's still going to do good things. And for all we know, in an hour from now, the Mets might make a deal with somebody else in a trade. Who knows? I don't know. But we tend to forget the fact that as much as I wanted Correa, this team, even with this lineup, with the DH, the third base, and the catcher that was terrible last year, won 101 games with no DeGrom and no Scherzer for around 11 to 12 weeks of the season. So are they going to be better? Who the hell knows, right? For all we know, no NL East team can win 100 games this year, right? Just because two teams won 101 last year doesn't mean they're going to win 101 or more this year, right? But you could still be the best team in the NL East by winning 97 games. It's not a bad year. So it does come down to the fact that would Correa have made us better? There's a pretty good chance he would have. But the Mets still have options, and they still have trade options. There still is free agent options that can still make this team better. I don't think as good as Correa would have made us, but it always doesn't come down to just one player, right? We all know that. Well, the Phillies lineup is better, but the Phillies lineup was better last year, and where did that get them in the season? It got them to the World Series because they got hot at the right time, right? Let's not act like this team is all of a sudden the best team in baseball when they got hot at the right time. The same reason in 2021 when the Braves got hot at the right time, when they also won 87 games. Listen, the Mets won 101 games, but they split the bit last year. But what was the reason for that, right? What was the reason for that? There's many reasons. There could have been pitching. There could have been offense. It came bad at the same time, right? Nobody's saying that the Braves are a bad team, the Phillies are a bad team, or the Mets are a bad team. It comes back to the fact that you still have to perform on the field. And I appreciate the fact that the Mets made an offer, didn't change it, and kept it the way it was, because we don't know if the Mets backed out with that offer and says take it or leave it, or did Correa just say, no, I'm not taking it. Ask the Twins what they're going to do. It's fine. And the important thing now, the Mets can actually move on no matter what else they do, because you know what? No matter what they do, the majority of the Met fans are not going to like what they do now, no matter what, because there was about 90% of us, including myself, that wanted Correa. And, you know, I know people are going to bring up Beatty. People are going to bring up Escobar. Maybe the Mets make a trade here or there. But what the Mets' problems were last year was the fact that they could not score in the second half with runners in scoring position. The run producers were not there. It's still Lindor. It's still Alonso with nobody else. Can you get Duvall? Can you get Mancini? Those guys, I can assure you, are not Correa. And you know what? There were some people that saying that that Correa is not as good as he seems. He's as good as he seems, okay? He's going to the Twins that are probably not even going to win the Central and might not even make the playoffs, right? They didn't make the playoffs last year with Correa. So we'll see. And what are the Mets going to do? Are the Mets was it Mauricio playing good in the Dominican Winter League that kind of gave him second thoughts about giving Correa that long-term deal with no language? Who knows? But I'm going to tell you this right now. Steve Cohen is going to respond. How, what, where? Who knows? But I think Steve Cohen is going to respond 100%. Because And I'm telling you right now, Boris just lost a big time like chip on his shoulder when it comes to Cohen, because I'm gonna tell you right now, Cohen's gonna have a hard time dealing with Boris is gonna have a hard time dealing with Cohen right now for whatever years down the road. You know, people are talking about Machado next year. After this year, he's going to opt out. Well, yeah, wonderful. But that's not going to help us this year. And if you're not going to worry about this year, then don't even play the season, right? I don't care about Machado in 2024. I don't care about Ohtani in 2024. And I am not going to stand here and says Correa was not going to make the Mets better, because he would have. Because honestly, he was. And if you're going to say he wasn't as good and he's not that good anyway, you are lying to yourself, because he can help any team. Now, Correa is not a Shohei Ohtani. He is not a Mike Trout. He is not a guy that is a centerpiece of a team that you can build around. He's not winning he's not winning the Twins a championship. Right? He's not winning the Twins a championship. They have nothing around him. Right? And that's Correa's problem to deal with on his own. Like, the Mets without Correa is going to win more games than what the Twins are going to win. That's obvious. The Mets are going to be a playoff team. Now, any one of these teams in the NL East can win the division. Any of these teams can win the wild card. Nobody would be shocked if all three teams make the playoffs in some way or fashion, just like last year. And you know what? Anybody who says that Correa wasn't going to help this team, you're lying to yourselves. You're pissed off. I get it. But let's be honest with ourselves. Correa, what the Mets did, yeah, Tilly, I agree. $42.5 million is a lot of money per year. I mean, that's bordering on Verlander, Scherzer type money. And he's not that player. But if the Mets would have guaranteed 6 years with that money, would any Met fan would have cared? No, because it was 6 years less than what we originally offered him. So I'm not going to say, oh, the Met fans would have been mad that we gave him $42 million a year for 6 years. They would have been mad. But that's a lot of money for a guy who is not going to make the Twins a championship team by himself, right? And, you know, CAA saying the lineup is trash in the NL East, but that same lineup won 101 games with no DH, no third baseman, and no catcher offense at all, except for Escobar in September. And let's be honest. We can keep on being honest, or we're going to keep on lying to ourselves. If you think the lineup was bad last year, you're wrong. Did they need another run producer? Absolutely. That's something I will agree with you with. But the Mets won 101 games last year, and they had their two aces out for 11 weeks of the season, and they also lost Marte for the month of September. So are they better? And like I like when people say, oh, the Phillies are better, the Braves are better, the Mets are better, this team's better. Well, on paper, absolutely. But but the Phillies are talking about the past as well. You see, the Braves have been talking about 2 years ago, right? The Braves had a better record last year, but got knocked out in the first round. But they won the World Series in 2021, where they were better than half the team in the National League. And Justin, they're not worse than last year because they have the same lineup, minus McCann with Navarez, who is going to be better offensively. Not great, but better. But everybody can say the Phillies and Braves are better than the Mets, but weren't you guys saying that a lot last year too? Like all year, it was the same thing over and over and over again, and it came out to be the Phillies made the World Series when they weren't even the best two teams in the NL East or in National League or in baseball for that matter. Well, CAA, the confidence is great, but you know who also had confidence last year? The Mets, right? Confidence means absolutely nothing. No, I don't. Look, I think too many people take it to another level. Like, is everybody better than somebody else? Yeah, sure, on paper. But you know what? When the Mets and Phillies or the Mets and Braves play the first series of the year and one of those teams dominate, all of a sudden that fan base is going to say, told you we were better, right? That's what we do, right? Met fans were throwing all types of shade on Braves fans when the Braves are beating their ass all year. And then at the end of the year, the Braves fans says, oh, we're better. But yet the Braves only played 3 more games than us. So, and are the Mets better than the Braves and Phillies? Who knows, right? On paper, yeah, you're going to see the lineups and be like, the Mets got a very similar lineup from last year. And the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies, look at their lineups. They're going to be better. Well, yeah, they were better last year as well. Yet, they weren't good until the last week of the season. The Braves and the Phillies basically were non-existent in the NL East until the playoffs, right? So, but they also are still the biggest strikeout teams compared to the 3 teams together. The Phillies have a ton of strikeouts, the Braves have a ton of strikeouts, and the Mets don't strike out a lot, right? So, and the Mets still have strikeout pitchers. Like, I love the move from Gregory Soto for the Phillies, so I think that's going to help their bullpen. But they are the same team that also have not lived up to expectations, the Phillies, and they, listen, even the Philly fans would have told you before the playoffs started that they weren't going anywhere in the playoffs. They got hot at the right time. The best teams don't always win. So, you know what? Let's hope the Braves and the Phillies win 105 and 106 games. The Mets will win 97, and the Mets will go further in the playoffs, right? That's very possible because that's the way it should have been, right? But that same lineup doesn't have Harper for 3 months, right? Wasn't that their excuse last year? So they don't have Harper, but they got Turner. Okay, Turner, little less strikeouts, but he strikes out a ton as well, but he gets on base. And with the Phillies bullpen, they got good arms, but they also have a lot of arms that walk a lot of people. They're very erratic with their location. And what we have to ask now, as a Mets fan or some Mets fans, what is next? What are they going to do? Now, I want all the Mets fans to go back prior to anything crazy that happened with Correa. The Giants still look like they were the Giants, right? He was going to the Giants. What were the Mets looking at? People were talking about Rafael Devers. That's obviously out the door. People were talking about Ohtani. You can believe it all you want. Moreno is not trading Ohtani in his last year of owning the team. That's it. Phils have 3 good arms. Who are they? Because let's give Nola the Cy Young because he's a number 3 at best. And Walker in that ballpark is going to be a problem, guys. Remember that. Walker was good with the Mets because he was in a big lineup. He was in a big, in a big ballpark. You know, his 3.25 ERA is going to balloon closer to 4 in that ballpark, guaranteed. Well, Tilly, obviously full strength, but what does that mean, really? What does that really mean, right? The Braves, for the most part, they were pretty healthy, but guess what? The Mets lost one of their most dynamic hitters in their lineup for the month of September, but nobody wants to talk about that, right? Is the Padre lineup better? Sure, but they're the same team that chokes us like everybody else did last year, right? That were supposed to be better. Well, see, I don't know who we're getting now. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna bullshit you guys and tell you everything's sunshine and rainbows because I'm not gonna do that. I'm making sure that I'm remaining negative, but don't act like this team is all of a sudden gonna win 75 games. Like that's idiotic to think that. And if you think that, you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to everything the Mets did because this Mets bullpen that actually lost them a lot of games early on in the season are better than last year, right? The starting pitching, remember, we did not have Scherzer. We did not have Scherzer or DeGrom for 11 weeks of the season combined. If you get those guys for at least 3 more weeks out of those 11, we would have easily won that division. And that's the biggest problem that I had. And I said this over and over again. The Mets were so fixated on Correa's situation that they basically did nothing else at that during that time period, and that's frustrating. Now, could the Mets, I'm not going to say that Correa is going to be bad or good. Is going to blow up his ankle. Who the hell knows? Who knows, right? But he can also be an all-star. But that all-star in Minnesota is not going to go further than an all-star in New York with the Mets, right? We don't know, right? If Correa has all-star seasons with the Twins, how far are they really going to go, right? I mean, that's an honest question, right? Because who do they got on that team? What was it? A year and a half ago, they traded Jose Berrios, right? Who is their ace. Well, CAA, I mean, don't watch the Mets this year then. I don't understand. Like, don't turn on SNY. I don't know what to tell you. Because there's the same people that did not like everything the Mets did last offseason the last offseason because they weren't going to supposedly be good enough, right? The Mets weren't the favorites to win the NL East. They weren't favorites to possibly even make the playoffs. They were on the fringe, right? People were saying 92, 93 games. They won 101, right? Again, if you are so frustrated, like this team is not going to win anything, then don't watch. Like, I don't know what else to tell you guys, right? Yeah, they're close to a $400 million payroll, but what people seem to forget is the fact that if the Mets brought back everybody that was a free agent on their team last year, DeGrom, Walker, Bassett, Lugo, Ottavino, May, and Nimmo, it would have still cost them almost the same amount of money than what they did with the current players they signed this year. So the payroll was going to be tremendously high. Anyway, so either if they got new players or brought back the same team, the payroll was going to be outrageous anyway. But just because we lost Correa, we're not winning 75 games. And remember, guys, it's more of a balanced schedule this year. You don't play the Mets, don't play the Braves a lot. The Braves don't play the Phillies a lot. The Braves don't play the Nationals a lot. The Phillies don't play the Mets a lot. 13 times this year out of 19. But you could be mad, but also realize that this team isn't a bad team. Are they better without Correa? Who knows? Probably not. So the people who want to talk about Ohtani, and I'm going to get those comments, I assure you when the stream's over, could have got, people are going to talk about Machado. That's 2024. Worry about 2023. What can the Mets do now to improve, right? Look, Mancini and Duvall are not Correa at all, right? Those were the two guys we were looking at prior to Correa. We're probably going to get one of those guys now, right? You're going to get 18 to 19 home runs, considering if they play every day, if they're the DH, with a couple of utility where they can play different positions, right? Okay, fine. Well, am I going to be waving pom-poms? No. Now, it does come down to, are the Mets going to make a trade now? I don't know who's out there right now. I'm going to try to look to see what's out there. Maybe there is a trade out there that we're not really looking at and the Mets might be looking at. I don't know. There was a report there that the Mets, were looking at the fact that Machado's opting out after this year. Well, I mean, that's cute and all, but I don't care about 2024. I don't care. For all we know, the asteroid can hit Earth and 2024 is non-existent, right? Well, I don't know what the Mets are going to do. I'm going to tell you right now, Cohen's going to do something because, look, we still don't know if the Mets gave him that offer, said take it or leave it, and walked out the door. We don't know that, right? We don't know. Could Correa says he was going to make a deal with them and then walked out at the last minute? Who the hell knows, right? Who knows? But if Cohen has taught us anything, it is the fact that if an agent or a player kind of goes under the table and basically thought he was going to sign here and then went to somebody else, Cohen made another move, right? Scherzer after Syndergaard, Bassett after Matz, and we'll see what happens here. I don't know, but it sucks. I'm not gonna lie, but we also understand that 3 weeks ago we weren't having Correa anyway, right? We were talking about, a lot of people were talking about Devers. I never thought that was gonna happen. All right, I never thought that. I didn't think the Red Sox were actually gonna pony up the money, but I didn't think the Mets were going to trade for him, or I don't think the Red Sox were going to trade him. Ohtani's probably not going to happen unless the Mets give a crazy package back to them, which I don't see the Mets doing. So where are we going to go? I know some people in the chat are talking about Reynolds. Well, I mean, I don't see where he fits there. I mean, even if you do get Reynolds for whatever, what he plays left field, right? Okay, he'll play left field. So Canada's going to be a fourth outfielder. Okay, not terrible. Beatty is once again on the fringe again because he's not starting over Escobar most likely. So again, you're basically throwing Beatty back to the back burner again. Well, Mothman, I don't think it was Epler because this was Cohen's baby. And I said this, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I said this. Cohen has some explaining to do because in his mind, he thought this wasn't going to be any issue. And maybe he thought ahead. Maybe he was like, oh, it's probably not that bad of an issue. The Giants got scared off by a medical that everybody knew about the ankle. Well, for all we know, maybe the Giants and the Mets are right about his ankle, right? I mean, let's be honest. Look, I'm not going to be here saying to you that the Mets shouldn't have offered him the same contract that the Twins did. Because if they did, 6 years is, you can wipe your ass with that if you're Steve Cohen. But I don't know who would want two big markets didn't want Correa for a long-term deal for whatever reason. I don't know. Like I said, we don't know the medicals. We're going to hear a lot of tweets. We're going to hear rumors. Listen, the teams cannot speak about Correa in any capacity because they will get in trouble, right? Because you can't talk about their medicals because that's not allowed by the CBA. You can't talk about the contracts except what you hear from reporters. But we also don't know if the Mets gave him an ultimatum that we were all asking for 5 days now. And listen, Cohen, every single time a player did this, he went out and did something else. One time it was a sign-in. The other time it was a trade. Let's see what he does. I'm just going to... Bravos, probably not. They're probably talking about Grissom. Because all of a sudden Brave fans don't think Swanson's a bum all of a sudden. So we'll see. Tilly, that's not a bad idea. Diaz is or Yuri Gurriel as well. So is an also interesting thing as well. So I don't know. All right, let's see. Let me just check some. I'm just checking Twitter really quick just to see. Let's see. Let's see what's going on here. I just want to see if anything else popped up. All right, so we're learning a little bit more. All right, so this is interesting. As a part of the Mets offer, Correa would have to take an annual physical, which would guarantee the following year if passed. So basically, every year was an opt-out for the Mets. So who would take that deal? I wouldn't, right? So this is what we said. He has to take an annual physical that would guarantee him that next year of the contract. Who would take that deal, right? So that's interesting. So I don't know. So I can't kill Correa for not taking that deal. Well, Bravos, maybe it's the right idea, right? The Braves never do, right? I mean, you never see that, right? I mean, it's almost impossible, probably because it seems like every player that the Braves kind of like draft is not a type of a Boras client, and if he is, they don't sign him anyway. So, but again, if that's true that the Mets want an annual physical every year to guarantee that year, that's like, when the team has the opt-out at any moment, and there's no guarantee for Correa. So I can't kill Correa on that part. But, well, Jet Williams is better than Correa. Well, even if he is, he's not going to be here next year, so who the hell cares about him, right? The same thing that goes for anybody else that anybody actually wants, right? If you want Ohtani, great. Call me in 2024. If you want Machado, call me in 2024. But this matters about 2023. That's it. It matters about 2023. And the Mets aren't trading for Ohtani. The Mets aren't trading for Trout. Alvarez is not going to be up on opening day because you don't sign Navarez to have Alvarez at the big league club. He is going to be working on his catching game. Beatty is the most likely option to make opening day roster because he can play left field, he can play third base. And it seems like the Mets really like him. And maybe the Mets really had their eyes opened even more with Ronnie Mauricio and what he did in Dominican Winter League. I don't know. Maybe they were hesitant after what Mauricio did in the Dominican Winter League, which is a pretty damn good big league and a good league. Probably the best league out there during the wintertime. Not Major League Baseball, but it's pretty damn good. And there's a lot of players that are major leaguers that play there. So we'll see. Space City, I don't know if the Mets blew it. We don't know everything that went involved in it. What we're hearing is the fact that they didn't want to guarantee a lot of the years. And if this is true that they want to give him an annual physical every year to guarantee that next year, I mean, that's a little comical to me, to be honest with you. I mean, the Yankees could have did that with Judge, right? I mean, every player that's injured should have a contract like that. Tilly, I think so. What trade it is, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but besides Ohtani and Trout, which that is a pipe dream to all pipe dreams, right? What is a trade that can happen? Like, I'm trying to think right now. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I came up live really quickly. So we just got to figure out, let's think about it really quick. I'm trying to think right now. TD, that's a stupid comment. That's not true at all. The Wilpons would have never been in on any of these guys. They would have probably signed JD Martinez, Trey Mancini, and Adam Duvall and put them on the field every single day. So that's not true. That's just, you're trolling, and that's cute. Let's see. Well, KT, exactly. The same people that were prospect hugging were the same people that wanted Correa and are now going to push the kids up there. And listen, if the Mets want to go with the kids, I mean, go with the kids, but you got to play them. You can't, platoon them with Canna and Escobar and Alvarez catches 3 times a week. That's not going to work. All right, these guys are used to playing every day. Yeah, see, what I don't want Steve Cohen to do is do a stupid trade that might make the Mets better in 2023, but might hurt them a couple of years from now. Again, I don't care the year after or the year after that until they actually happen, right? Because we all talk about prospects and then it ends up being a big shit in your face because it doesn't happen. So I'm just reading what everybody's typing right now on Twitter. I'm curious. Let's see. So, there is people talking about Reynolds right now. The Mets actually called on the Pirates with Reynolds recently. I don't know how recently. Webbs, I agree with you, but that has nothing to do with 2023. Like, it really doesn't. This whole thing with Correa only means that Cohen's going to probably go buck wild with Ohtani next year. Well, Evil, that's not exactly true because what was just put out there was the fact that the Mets every year of the contract want an annual physical to guarantee the following year. I'm sorry. If I'm a player, I'm not taking that deal. That's crazy. But you know what? Cohen didn't fall for the Boris nonsense, right? That's what I think. Again, Cohen has some explaining to you because he was the one that said this was the bat we needed, right? This was the missing piece. So he's not all to blame on this, but he has some blame in this. Absolutely. So I don't think that we can just, act like Cohen is not at fault here. He has some blame here. Yeah, but KTU, honestly though, that's still a contract that, he's getting $42 million more in the first 6 years than the Mets were willing to offer. So let's see. Well, we don't know if Ray Finkel. Yeah, I agree, Andre. Again, I don't know if the Mets have something else working, and this is why they gave another offer. Like this was an offer. This was a joke of an offer. I'm not gonna lie. Like the Mets ain't. Believe me, you guys know. I am not one to not criticize the Mets when the Mets should be criticized. The Mets have to be criticized in this aspect, but is it all their fault? No. But Cohen is also not stupid, right? This guy didn't make $17 billion in his lifetime by being stupid business-wise. As much as Cohen wanted Correa, he also has to be a businessman. So I can't necessarily kill him for everything. This was a Boris under the table type of situation as well, right? Everybody's to blame in this situation. But the Mets fell into the same problem the Giants did. And people were laughing at the Giants, which I didn't think was fair. But the Giants, when it got back to the contract and it went to the top people, they were concerned about his ankle. For all we know, he might never have a problem with his ankle in his career, for the rest of his career. We don't know. But if the Mets and the Giants, two big market teams, were not willing to give long-term deals and a lot of language in the deal, then can you blame them for everything? No. There's going to be people that blame the Mets 100%. There's people who bought tickets. And listen, if you bought tickets because the Mets signed Correa, and that's the reason why you bought tickets, and Mothman, I know you did, because you told me. Personally, you told me. If you bought tickets because Correa signed with the Mets, and that's the reason why you bought tickets, then no offense, guys. This is not me being an ass. You're a fool. Because you should buy tickets because you're a fan of that team. This team is not winning 75 games because they don't have Correa. You buy tickets because you're a fan of that team. You're not a believer. You're a fake believer. And if that unsubscribes to people, excuse me, I got the flu, guys. I apologize. If you're not a believer, and listen, the Mets can suck, the Mets can be good, the Mets can be bad. There's many years the Mets had no chance of making the playoffs, but you still went to games, you still watched them on TV. No matter if you buy tickets or not, watching them on SNY gives the Mets money, right? They got rights. You're giving them the viewership. So if you bought tickets just because of Correa, then you're a fan of a player, not the team. Excuse me, guys. I apologize. Excuse me, guys. Ooh. Sorry about that. The flu's kicking my ass, but I'm getting better. But after this, my we're still long way away with my voice here. Sorry, guys. I'm looking at the comments. Ron, yeah. And you know what? This makes the Mets move on to other things they need, right? Now, I don't know what the Mets are going to do. I really have to look at it and see the players that could be available. We know about Reynolds. Again, forget Ohtani and Trout. That's not happening. Okay, it's not happening. All right. Yeah, Tilly, that's true, but I think the Guardians got better. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got a good pitching staff. Their young kids, mostly Mets prospects, are good. And they're a good up and coming team. And, they're only going to get better. And I don't know if the Twins, I don't know what the Twins are because, look, the Twins can be a playoff team, but then they'll face the Yankees like they do every year and lose, right? That's just their status quo, right? That's their MO. Ron, you can't say that. I'm sorry. As much as I like Beatty and as much as I like Mauricio, you can't say they'll be better because they're unknowns. No matter how good they might be, they are unknowns. You can never say an unknown is better than a known product. All right. Correa is not a bad player. He is a very good to really good player who has all-star talent. And if he becomes an all-star the next 6 years with the Twins, Mets fans will be bitching. Right? Stop with the fact that let's not act like prospects are just automatically going to be good. All right? That's not fair to the prospects, and that's just giving you a delusional aspect. Well, yeah, Ron, I understand that. Health is the question. But if you're going with the question mark with Correa, he never had time on the IL with that ankle injury. From all these situations, it seems like he's not going to have problem with this ankle until he's 35, 36, 37 years old. The Twins just signed him to a 6-year deal. So that them 6 years can be very good years that Correa will give him. But what else are they going to do? Is that going to hamstring from doing anything else? Well, then he's just not there. Then where are the Twins going? Well, Dookie, he did. He failed 2 physicals. And the Twins are not going to care about the physical because they had him last year. That's basically it. They know tickets are going to sell because they got Correa, right? They know jerseys are going to be bought because Correa is there for 6 years now. They know that, right? At the end of the day, are the Twins going to add to their lineup with Correa, even if over the next couple of years? Who knows? They might not, right? And we'll see. Oh, did something happen? Hold on, guys. Let me just check something. Hold on, guys. I'm just checking something. All right. So I'm just. All right. So yeah, people are talking about Steve Cohen right now. That was Steve Cohen as a business person really trusting the doctors and a couple of different opinions he had. We'll see. Well, Tilly, that's one thing for sure. Like, that's what people are talking about on Twitter right now. And, all these negative Mets fans that are going to call Cohen the Wilpons, I mean, don't watch him this year. Like, listen, the people who are complaining that it's Correa or bust are laughable because it's not true. It's not true at all. Because I guarantee you guys were the same people that wanted to not trade Beatty and Mauricio and everybody that we could have been better last year by trading guys to get better, right? But we did it. Well, Brandon, I agree with that. But that doesn't mean the Mets aren't still going to do something, right? There's still a whole month and a half until spring training. We don't know. And Yeah, I agree, Ryan. And listen, I have no problem with Correa not taking that deal from the Mets. That's a laughable deal. But why did the Mets offer that type of deal? Do they have something in the works in regards to a trade? Or do they go the route of who's available on the free agent market and go with that? That's not going to make a lot of people happy. I'm going to tell you that right now. If the Mets tomorrow sign either Duvall or Mancini, nobody's going to be happy about that. Is it an okay move? Yeah. I mean, they probably couldn't hurt this team, but are they going to be as good as Correa? Probably not. I mean, that's probably obvious to everybody. Well, Tilly, listen. Well, yeah, there's some rumors right now that the Mets are going to go after Brian Reynolds now. I don't see. I don't know. I don't see why that would make sense at the fact that, yeah, you can play him in left field. That's not the end of the world. But, I mean, he's a home run guy. You know, he hit 28 home runs last year, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, if you really were going to trade a couple of prospects for a guy like Brian Reynolds, wouldn't you have tried earlier to try to get Devers away from Boston when they still didn't have a deal done? And maybe that would have enticed Hein Bloom to trade him? Well, Brandon, great. They can play together. But again, that was a weird deal by the Mets. And again, we don't know what the Mets were thinking here. Did the Mets have other things on the table? I don't know. Well, Mike, maybe they will. Maybe they fell in. They saw what Mauricio did at the Dominican Winter League, and maybe they want to give him a chance. I have no problem with that. But they better be right. And I'm telling you that right now. They better be right. So all the Mauricio fans, all the prospect huggers that never want to trade anybody, any prospect, he better be the top prospect that everybody wants to talk about and that he's so good. He better be. I'm not saying he has to be, Juan Soto, all right? But he better be very damn good. And I'm talking about at least Correa good. At least at that point. I don't know about average when it comes to, about 290, because that's what Correa hit last year, 291. He hits 270, but if he can hit the same amount of home runs as Correa and around the same RBIs, then fine. Then I'll take it. But we don't know that. Stop acting like we know what Mauricio is going to be. I don't care what he did in the Dominican Winter League. It's still not Major League Baseball. There's a lot of guys on the Dominican Winter League that cannot sniff Major League Baseball. Does everybody know who he hit all those baseballs against? Was it all Major League Baseball pitchers? Was it bad baseball pitchers that are in the major leagues? I don't know. Because all we've heard about for years with Mauricio is, Mauricio's good. Mauricio's good. The Mets still haven't done anything with Mauricio. They don't want to change positions with Ronnie Mauricio. Well, they traded for Lindor and signed Lindor. They almost were trying to get Correa, so they were blocking the two positions that Mauricio know that he can play. So I'm confused. So what are they doing? You know what? The Mets better know what they're doing, because if they really thought Mauricio in the Dominican Winter League were they shocked by the way he played and how well he played? I don't know. We don't know. Well, Webbs, they're not gonna the Pirates are not gonna take Vogelback and Ruff. Now, Mauricio and Vientos, you better add somebody else, and probably in your top 5. That's the way I see it. Well, Brandon, that's true too. And again, we don't know how the first half's going to play out, right? We don't know. I don't know if he's going to be Alex Ochoa, but he could be. He could be worse than that. The same people that went crazy for Ronnie Mauricio were the same people that might have been crazy for Lashes Millage many years ago. And not saying Mauricio is going to be a bust. We don't know. But I always like the known rather than the unknown. And look, if the Mets were honest and serious about Beatty and Mauricio, bring them up. Let them win the job. Fight it out with Escobar. Fight it out with Cannon, with Beatty in left field, Mauricio at third base. Right? Has anybody talked about third base with Mauricio? Does anybody know how he did defensively? Or did he make 10 errors at third base, but he can hit? So we got another DH on our hands, just like Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? So listen, if the Mets were very concerned about Correa and his ankle, you know what you got to do? And they loved Mauricio and what he did in Dominican Winter League. Let him win the job in spring training. If he wins the job, bring his ass up. Because why the hell not? I mean, you got these guys. Bring them up. Don't bring them up in game 160 and expect him to do damage like they did with Alvarez. So it's not about being mad about Correa. It's just a fact of the matter of the people who are talking about Mauricio and Beatty, fine. Let's bring them up. See what they can do. Let them win the job in spring training over Canner and Escobar. If you want to do that, I'm okay with that. Give the guys a chance. But don't put them in a position where they know they're not going to win the job in spring training, and then Escobar and Canner are not good, and now you have to bring these guys up anyway. Give them guys a chance. That's what I'm waiting for. Let's see. All right, so Correa's breakdown per source is 36 million, 36 million, 36 million, 31.5, 30.5, 30 million. Including an $8 million signing bonus, half paid in 23 and 24. So apparently the Mets and Correa were very close. Boris called up Minnesota, and the Twins went higher. Boris did not call Cohen back. So take it for what it's what. That's what Heyman said on MLB High Heat just now. Telly, I don't know why the mods are blocking. I give them their discretion. That's it. It's their job to do what they want to do, and they're allowed to do it, right? That's why we have mods. I don't know what you said that blocked it, but they didn't like something. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, well, what? Yeah, it can finally quit with Mauricio, but that doesn't mean he's still going to be a good major league player. But I'd rather, if they want to try him out, try him out. So according to Heyman, the Mets and Correa was close to a deal, and Boris called up the Twins last minute. I'm assuming the same way Boris did it with the Giants. Didn't call back the Giants and called the Mets. So Boris did another screw job to another team. So, and that's Boris in a nutshell, guys. What are you going to do, right? Unfortunately, it happened. He's not a Met. Move on. You want to use Mauricio and Beatty as the guys to give him a chance? Let's go. Bring them up. Let them fight for the job. Oh, yeah, I already know, Ryan. Well, this is another thing where Cohen is going to do something. I don't know what, but he's going to do something. This is Cohen's MO. He's done it every time. And we'll see. All right, sorry, guys. So many people are texting me right now and messaging me from all over. And I appreciate you guys that are on the channel that text me, email me, all types of messaging from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I do appreciate it. You can keep them coming. I try to get back to everybody. If I don't, I apologize. But I'm trying to. Sorry, guys. I'm just checking everybody. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, the Mets are still better than the Yankees. They were last year, even without Correa. I mean, what did the Yankees do? They got Rodon. That's it. Like, where your bigger problem was offense? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, why Yankee fans are trolling? You still didn't get nobody. You got Rodon, who is just as injury prone as every other pitcher that the Mets had on their rotation. Oh, I don't want Tatis. I think he's a freaking cancer. Let him go to the Yankees, please. Well, I don't know, but you know what? Boris did what Boris did to the Giants, texting the Mets, and he did it with the Twins. So, listen, the Twins ended up waiting in the weeds. Okay, Michael, but the Phillies didn't win the division last year and they got to the World Series. So, I mean, the Yankees can keep on winning divisions and still not beat the Astros. Like, I just don't understand. Michael, you don't have to troll this channel. You are not hurting my feelings. Trust me. Trust me. We're Mets fans. We're used to getting beaten down. We don't need Yankee fans to be trolling because, let's be honest, who was the last one to make the World Series? Yeah. Okay, so until you make the World Series, listen, let the Phillies fans talk to me, right? They were bad, worse than the Yankees, worse than the Mets, worse than the Braves, worse than the Dodgers, but they made the World Series. At least I can give them credit, even though I can't stand them. Well, I don't think they'll not stay healthy, but Escobar's got to be, I'm not saying he has to be September Escobar, but if he's 75% of that, Michael, we don't. We won 101 games without Correa. You need Correa more than the Mets need Correa. Let's be honest. I mean, you're rolling out Donaldson, IKF, and Hicks. Like, I mean, let's be honest. That's $50 million that's like down the drain. Like, let's be honest. I'll take Canna over any of those three guys. I'll take Escobar over those three guys. I'll take Lindor every day of the week over those guys. And I'm still waiting for the Yankees to get Reynolds. And I'll tell you right now, if the Mets find a way to get Reynolds, I don't think that's a smart move for the Mets, but he's a pretty good player, right? No, Michael, I appreciate you're a Yankee fan, but let's not act like the Yankees are better than the Mets because they weren't last year. Like they weren't. Right? You got far last year because the American League was absolute dog shit. Like, let's be honest. I agree, Michael. Listen, I'm glad you got Omar Minaya and Brian Sabian. Like, that's your biggest acquisitions this year. Because Rodon, good addition, but it's not like the Yankees had terrible pitching last year. They were one of the best pitching teams in all of baseball all year. So how much Rodon is going to be, how much better are the Yankees going to be with Rodon when their pitching was basically top of the league all year? You got the same terrible offense, and there's a pretty good chance that Aaron Judge is not going to hit 62 home runs again. So even if he hits 45 home runs, that's nearly 20 home runs less with less RBIs. He might have the same average because he's a great hitter. But who else is helping him? You had guys in the first half, and that's why the Yankees were so good in the first half, because every one of those guys are playing well above the back of their baseball card, including Judge. Right? You got guys who aren't good, who had career years in the first half, and then they went back to the back of their baseball card, and that's why the Yankees were terrible in the second half. Your big problem was offense. So, and that's the biggest problem with the Yankees right now. And let's be honest, the Yankees are not going to have the best offer for Brian Reynolds. They're not. There's enough teams out there that want Brian Reynolds, and all indications are they want pitching prospects. And the Yankees don't have any at the top of their farm system. The guys that they had at their farm system, they used in the big leagues last year, or they traded them already. So I don't know. Oh, yeah, Michael. The Mets went to a 6-year deal, and they were guaranteeing the 6 years for $157.5 million. The Twins went 6 years, $200. But the Mets were going to give him the 6 other years, but he has to have a physical every year after that 6th year to guarantee that next year. So he was getting $40+ million more in those 6 years with the Twins. So the Mets kind of probably knew he wasn't going to take that deal, to be honest with you. But according to multiple reports and according to John Heyman on MLB Network's High Heat, Heyman said the Mets and Correa were very close to a deal. Boris called the Twins to see if they would give him a better offer, and they did. So this is what Boris did to the Giants with the Mets, and he did with the Mets for the Twins now. So he did it twice, and we'll see. I don't know. Again, if the Mets get Brian Reynolds, great. You can put him in left field. That's fine. But you also put Cannon as your fourth outfielder, which is okay. Most people want him there. And you got Beatty as the third baseman or platooning with Escobar. Righty, lefty, I don't know. We'll see. Well, explosive. Check out the Phillies and Braves, the Padres and Braves last year, right? Like, I understand you say that, but it really doesn't mean anything on paper, right? The Dodgers, who were the best team in play baseball all year, played 4 more games than the Mets last year. So where did that really get them? It's not always the best team on paper goes all the way. It doesn't work like that. It never works like that. And we'll see. Yeah, I agree, Paul. I don't think the Mets knew that he wasn't going to take that deal. So why did the Mets give him that type of deal? We'll probably never know. But, we'll see what the Mets are going to do next. But Cohen's MO, every time this type of situation happened, will probably I'm sorry. Yeah, they might have had something else going on, because Cohen's MO, when things happen like this, especially when an agent doesn't call back, he does something else, and it's usually bigger. I don't know if he can be bigger than Correa, but you never know. We don't know what teams they're talking to. Apparently, recently they spoke to the Pirates about Reynolds. Maybe that's an idea. I could say that Correa is better than Reynolds, but Reynolds has more power than Correa, for what that means. So we'll see. Yeah, but again, explosive. It's not like Correa was the big bat. You're getting that big bat fixated in your head when it wasn't a guy with just power we needed. We needed a run producer, not a power hitter. Because Duvall is a power hitter, but the reason why I don't want him, because he either hits a home run or he strikes out and he bats 220. I don't want that type of player. All right, I'm just checking Twitter once again. Hold on one second. All right, let's see. All right, so just the same stuff that everybody's talking about. So just think of it this way, guys. Correa, 13 years, 350. Giants were necessarily not ready to give him that. Mets, 12 years, 315. He got 6 years for 200. So he'll be 34 years old when he becomes a free agent again. And who knows with that ankle. So, hey, listen, if I was Correa, I wasn't going to take that Mets deal. So, and I can't blame him for that. But I'm still trying to figure out why the Mets gave a unique, interesting deal like that they could have easily offered him 6 years, $200 million, and that would have been fine. Why didn't they do that? Do they have something else in the works? In a trade? Probably most likely a trade, in my opinion. So we'll see. And again, it should be a relief that the saga is over, even though it didn't go to our side. But at least we can move on, right? To what? Who knows? We'll figure that out very, very soon, because we'll have to wait and see. Ray, congratulations. Hopefully you go to Citizens Bank this year. But the Phillies were worse than the Braves and the Mets last year, and they made the World Series. Trout and Ohtani's not happening. Stop it. No DH, no third baseman. Interesting. Okay, that's fine. All right, Ray. You're just. I mean, there is a Phillies channel. I promise you that. Irresistible. Those are always a go-to. Maybe Rocky. I don't know. Like, it is weird to me that once the physical happened, this whole contract situation went down a lot. Right? Clearly, right? 6 years, 157. The Mets knew Correa was not going to take that deal, right? Now, would the Mets, if Boris would have called them back and says, hey, the Twins are offering us this, would you go to this? Maybe they would have said yes. Who knows? But do the Mets have something else working on the side that might be a nice trade that could bring in a really, really good player just as good as Correa or better? Who knows? We'll see. Explosive, I don't think Epler botched this because I think this was always Cohen's baby. I think this was his thing. Because remember, the reports were that Cohen made this deal, agreement with Boris, the $315 for 12 years, and the Mets front office didn't even know. Epler didn't know, or anybody in the front office. They found out when we found out. So, I do think Cohen probably put the cart before the horse in the best terms I can come up with. With the physical, and probably think it wasn't as bad as the physical shown. But I do think Cohen was when this physical situation went down, I guarantee you Cohen was probably telling Epler, let's go find some deals here, like trade scenarios, just in case this falls through. I don't think Cohen does not have a backup plan. I think Cohen always has backup plans. Again, this guy is not one of the smartest businessmen around to not have a backup plan. I think he does. Now, it might not be as good as Correa, but it might be good. It might help this team nonetheless, no matter if you like it or not. Because the next thing that the Mets do, if it's another bat, whoever it might be disappointing for most Met fans. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. Well, George Springer was all Sandy Alderson. And remember, that first year, he's banned from the Phillies chat as well. Well, that means he's just a moron then. Okay. Yeah, well, George Springer was Sandy Alderson. This wasn't, remember, that was the first year of Cohen. Cohen made a deal with the owners that he wouldn't be so involved and let let Alderson run the show. So that was all Alderson. The Real Muto non-signing and the George Springer was all about Sandy Alderson. It wasn't Cohen. Cohen has been a fixture the last 2 years because of that. I don't think Hayes, any of the young kids are going to go anywhere for Pittsburgh, but there is a possibility that the Mets might go in on Reynolds. I mean, it's a possibility. I do think the Mets can give a better. What the Yankees are willing to give up, I don't think they're willing to give up Volpe or Dominguez. So if they're not going to give up those two guys, then Peraza is damn sure not going to be enough because the Mets top 10 is better than the Yankees top 10. It's a fact. The Yankees have 3 of the top 100, and the Mets have 4 and probably 5 once everything comes out because of Jet Williams and Kevin Parada as well. So the Mets actually never moved from the 26.25 AAV, even with the 6-year 157.5. I think if they would have went up 180 and went to 30 million a year, maybe he would have been. Yeah, I think Cohen's going to do something else, but we'll see what it is. Well, Roberto, I mean, it's kind of hard not to make deals with Boris since he basically has almost every single player in baseball. Like Boris has like, if you do every 10 players, right? He probably has like 6 out of 10. And are you not going to deal with Boris even though you want a player? So you're going to deal with lesser players? No. They're going to deal with Boris. It's just, for all we look, there's 2 teams that I think the Giants needed Correa more than the Mets did. And obviously the Twins needed Correa more than the Mets did, right? But it doesn't mean that the Mets now why the Mets made this type of offer after the physical, I don't think we'll ever know because you can't talk about the player. So, because that's a no with the CBA. But Rocky, I'm not gonna wish an injury on somebody like that. It's not happening. Not with me. Well, Brian, yeah, but you can also say the same thing for every other team in baseball, right? Jonathan, probably like a guy like Chafin or Fulmer, or the Mets might trade for a reliever, but it could be Chafin at this point, most likely. Well, Mothman, you're probably never going to get a really good player then, to be honest. Because there is good players that are not Boris clients, but most of them are. I mean, you can't work like that. Everybody knows what Boris is. The years and money, Delmar, it was for the Twins, it was 6 years, 200. And with all the incentives and everything like that, it can go up to 275. The Mets were firm on 6 years, 157.5 for whatever reason. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know why they had a deal like this and why they kept it with the same AAV with less years. I don't know. No idea. But Bryce, why? If he's that fucked up in the ankle, 2 teams didn't want to give him a guaranteed contract. So I don't understand that, right? Let's be honest, Bryce, you're a Yankees fan. You needed Correa much more than the Twins and the Mets needed Correa, right? So I don't know. Yeah, the deal is only 6 years. That's why I don't understand. Well, I think that's a lot for Reynolds and Hayes, and I don't think Hayes is going anywhere with the Pirates. So I think you got to get that out of your head, Webbs. Yeah, Mancini's probably an option now, to be honest. Well, Annette, I'm bold. To be honest with you, I'm relieved that it's over because the Mets can actually move on. But of course, I'm disappointed. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we were gonna get Correa. Like, how am I not gonna be upset about that? But it's not the end of the world. Well, Bryce, I agree. The Twins like them. Like, the Twins have less to lose than the Mets, right? The Mets couldn't sign Correa and guarantee him all the years, and the guy gets hurt. That hurts the Mets and it hurts the Twins because the Twins are going to be what the Twins are, what they were last year with Correa. They didn't get better. They were the same team. So we'll see. Well, committee, great. But next year is 2024. So we forget about 2023. That's just not the way to think. That's a loser mentality. Well, John, it wasn't a knee, it's an ankle, but I get your point. Well, no, that's not true, Brandon. That's not true at all, honestly. Like, the Twins can win 75 games, not make the playoffs. The Mets can go to the National League Championship Series. Does that mean not win the World Series is because they didn't get Correa? That's not, you can't think like that. Well, yeah, Tilly, I mean, it's possible. All right, guys, so I'm going to make you listen to what Heyman said about the Mets and Correa and the Twins also, that was on High Heat not too long ago. So listen up, guys.
He has all the details, and he says hello. Mr. Heyman, it's nice to have you with us here. Obviously, the Mets got very careful with those back into the 6 years. So Carlos back to Minnesota for about $42 million total more. Let me get your take on the whole scenario here in the last 24 hours. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Mets wanted to mitigate the risk. They felt there was a risk. I know it's very difficult to gauge, to pinpoint exactly when that risk will come into play. Carlos had the injury in 2014, hasn't received any treatment, nor has he been on the injured list for that injury since 2014 when he was in the minors, but two doctors did flag it, and certainly the Mets were cautious about it. They wanted to mitigate the risk, and over the first 6 years, which are the guaranteed years, the Twins did offer $42.5 million more. The Mets were being careful. They also, my understanding is the Mets also wanted to give Carlos a physical every year of the contract as well.
Well, the Giants also negated this too. So that's two franchises, to be fair, that had issues with his physical. Thoughts with that? Go ahead. Let me hear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fair. Of course, after the first one, maybe the second one's going to look at it closely and not take chances. But, I mean, it's pretty clear the Mets are a team that's in it to win it. And they're already got a record payroll of over $350 million, even without Carlos Correa. So their emphasis is on winning. So they must have felt that there was some risk that they felt they needed to mitigate. And the idea was to split the difference, to give him 6 fully guaranteed years, which is what he ends up getting with the Twins, plus the 4 vesting years, 6 guaranteed years with the Mets, and then 6, maybe you call them conditional guaranteed years additionally. But it's all in the details. It's all about the language. How many games would he have to play? Would he have to be in the field? Is it just plate appearances? What's considered injured? What's considered healthy? And they went over this for more than 2 weeks, as we know, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and certainly both sides wanted to make this happen, and they just could not bridge the difference.
All right, guys, so that was John Heyman on MLB High Heat earlier, about, a half hour, 45 minutes ago, so that's what was said. So what we've heard, what Heyman talked about, the Mets were guaranteeing 6 years at $157.5 million, which was the same amount of AAV for the 315 for 12 at $26.5 million. They were given vesting years after the guaranteed 6 years, which would have made it a 12-year deal still. But every year after the guaranteed 6 years, he would have to take a physical to guarantee that next year. So there's only 6 years, $200 million guaranteed, with a lot of incentives to get it up to $275 for the Twins. The Mets offered 6 years, $157.5, with vesting options for the additional 6 years to make it a 12-year deal, but the other 6 years after that were not guaranteed after the first 6 years. So at the moment, if you're Correa, you were going to get more money per year for the 6 years guaranteed, what the Mets offered. But we also heard that Boris never called back the Mets and say, would you guarantee $200 million for 6 years? So we never know if the Mets were going to do that. But also, we also don't know if the Mets said, this is it, we're not doing anything else. So we don't know. But no, I'm not mad. He took the more money, no matter if he wanted to be a Met or not. He's played with the Twins for 1 year. He is a little comfortable with them. And it is what it is at this point. But here we are as Met fans or baseball fans as it is. Listen, every single person, I don't care if you're a Met fan, Brave fan, Philly fan, everybody was sick of this Cohen news every single day for 3 weeks. Right? It's came to a resolution today, which we all thought it was going to after last night's latest news. What we have to find out now, what are the Mets going to do? Are they going to make a trade? Some people were bringing up Brian Reynolds. Are the Mets going to look at other trade possibilities that they might already been looking at while this Correa saga was going on. We don't know. So what are they going to do? Look, the Mets still need another bullpen arm. They still got to get more bench pieces, maybe a fourth outfielder. We'll see. Now, could this be a blessing in disguise? Who the hell knows, right? Nobody can predict that. It's not fair to predict that. You're going to make yourself go crazy if you predict that. Brandon Belt. I mean, no. No. Well, committee is possible, but at the end of the day, the Mets don't have Correa. And you know what? As if you're pissed off, be pissed off, but get your head back in the game. Because as much as the Cohen might be pissed off, for all we know, remember, this was all Cohen's situation, right? This was his little project, right? Because the front office had no idea this was getting done until we found out on Twitter like everybody else. So we have to move on. They have to just get their head back into the game and do something else. Well, Fireblazing, we'll see. Again, Correa can have 6 years in a row without being on the IL because of that injury. So, at the end of the day, he's going to hurt the Yankees more than he's going to hurt the Mets by playing them more, right? He's not in the NL East. He's not even in the National League. So it's not that much of a big deal. It's just that he's not on the Mets. Now, if the Mets are going to go with Mauricio and Beatty and use them as guys like, all right, let's see what these guys got, fine. Let them fight for the job. But if you're not going to do that, what are they going to do the rest of this offseason? Trade market? Maybe getting who's left on a free agent market and going with that? But remember, Steve Cohen said when they agreed to terms with Correa 3 weeks ago, this was the missing piece we needed. You can't do less than that or get a lesser player than Correa and act like it's the same thing, because it's not. And that's the thing that we have to see. Cohen, every single time when this happens, he does something better, right? Syndergaard went to the Angels. The Mets signed Scherzer. Mets decides to not call back Cohen, goes to the Cardinals. The Mets trade for Bassett. Better. Could they do that again? We'll see. That's what we're going to be looking at as Met fans. So, exactly, Gates, 100%. So with that said, guys, 6 years, $200 million with additional incentives that can raise it up to $275 million. Going to the Twins for Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa now is a Twin, not a Met. Mets gotta go elsewhere. We'll see what they do. Look. Cohen's MO is he always does something else, and both times this happened to him, he's done better. So we'll see what Cohen has up his sleeve. Is it a trade? Is it free agents? We shall see. It looking like it's probably more of the trade market to at least have a bigger name that's at least on the same level as Correa or just about. We shall see. So with that said, guys, everybody have a good day. See what the Mets do next. Thank you guys for tuning in for the breaking news right here on Talking Mets with Rob. Everybody have a good day. See you next time, guys. Good night. Good afternoon. Eat up. Lunch. Still, let's go Mets, guys. Never give up on your team, guys. It's not over until it's over. We are still a team that won 101 games last year. We're basically almost the same team. Let's see what they do. Never guarantee anything, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go Mets, guys. Have a good night.
Let's go! You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go.